Do you guys ever get hit by something or look around and wonder to yourself if you're living in the Matrix, or if anyone else around you has ever had an original thought? Because so often you see that everyone just follows the herd. They just do exactly what they've been told to do. They just follow their programming. It's almost as if they inherited every single belief from their parents and they never questioned a single thing once. And you have to wonder to yourself, is it really rude calling these people NPCs? Have they decided anything for themselves in life? Are they just on the trajectory that the world has for them? You know what I mean? Do they have any agency? So this video in a way is inspired by the George Mack episode with Chris Williamson on modern wisdom. And George Mack has this idea or this theory called agency. So agency is a person's willingness to go against the flow or pursue an original idea. And if they're in a bad circumstance, a highly agentic person or person with lots of agency will do something about it and take action to get themselves out of that situation. But also they have a very clear understanding of how they see the world themselves. Okay, so most people nowadays will just buy a car on finance. They will buy their house on finance. They will get married and just have kids straight away. They will do all these things that everyone does because that's the way it's just been done in the past. They will get to a 9 to 5 and then they will work overtime unpaid. And they will think this will get them promoted quicker, which we all know is a farce. So, and why do they do these things? Well, I'll tell you for free. It's because they don't have a life philosophy, right? Now, Ryan, what the fuck is a life philosophy? A life philosophy is essentially a set of guiding principles or axioms from which you have derived principles. Okay? So, how this works is you have your axioms, which are essentially your values or things that are very important to you. Or let's call them your core principles. Axioms/core principles. And then from there you can derive principles that you can implement in your daily life. Okay? And then when you're making decisions, you're not making decisions based on your programming, which sorry, we'll get to that in a second. I just want to make these two clear, distinct things. You are then making decisions based on your own principles which you have chosen yourself, okay? And you then can live a life according to what you believe is actually important. Not what your parents believed is important, not what their grandparents believed is important, not what your chromosomes think is important, what you think is important. And in this way, you can take control of your life and be a highly agentic person, a person with lots of agency, and really do something extraordinary, okay? A person who is an NPC, or someone who is just living the life that's been laid out in front of them, are they really ever making a decision? Do they have any free will, right? Because they are taking every single action based upon their ingrained beliefs, which are not even their own, which they have chosen, right? Those beliefs have been planted by someone else. And there's lots of research that shows that beliefs, most people, they don't really understand why they believe anything. It's just somebody they've trusted has said something about this idea which has led to the formation of a belief, right? And then the next thing is they have genetics. So every decision is really just a combination of their genetics and their beliefs. And if you think about it, and you think about the brain and how it works, is there really space for free will when you have genetics and beliefs which you don't have control over? So the only way to have some free will in this obviously simplified paradigm that we are looking at is to have your own beliefs. When you make a decision, you have at least chosen the beliefs which have influenced that decision. So now you might say, okay Ryan, but how do I choose a life philosophy, or how do I build a life philosophy? Okay, so it's very simple. So in mathematics, how any field or subfield of mathematics works, and similarly in physics, is you'll have a few axioms, and they'll be very limited, right? And from these axioms, you can prove other sub-axioms, or what they get called in mathematics as lemmas. And these are kind of our life principles, or sorry, our daily principles that we are going to apply now, okay? And these lemmas can be used in mathematics to solve the problems. And you can derive hundreds of lemmas from a few axioms when you combine them and really look into what the axioms mean. So in our case, for instance, for me, I have chosen values as my axioms, okay? So for me, I have authenticity / honesty. So I will be authentic at all costs, even when it is detrimental to myself, and I will be honest even when it is detrimental to myself. And in this way, I will preserve my character and be honest to myself at all times. And if you are honest and authentic, that is the quickest way to grow and be yourself. Because when you make a mistake, you will own up to it and have to learn from that mistake. The person who doesn't own up to it doesn't have to learn from that mistake. They can just push it under the carpet. The next is honor, okay? And why I chose honor is because I think, what man doesn't want to be honorable? What man doesn't want to be respected by his fellow man for having a code, And honor means that you stick to your code, even when it costs you. And I think that is incredibly valuable in our modern world, where people are in it for themselves most of the time. And the thing is, character is always respected. Okay? Not everyone will respect money, not everyone will respect clothes, not everyone will respect fast cars, and not everyone will respect status. But every single person will respect character. And that is almost like a governing law of the universe. That is almost as true as entropy itself. The next is self-discipline. If you want to build character, the first place to start is self-discipline and daily habits. And for me, this is incredibly important. The next is self-respect, and you can see how these are starting to all link. Authenticity, honor, self-discipline, self-respect. These are all sort of linking, right? You can't have self-respect without self-discipline. Do you really respect yourself if you don't have self-discipline? Probably not. Self-respect also means I'm willing to tell people that I'm not going to accept this behavior, I can stand up for myself, or I have to stand up for myself. The next is loyalty. Once you have found people who really are worth being loyal to, then be loyal to them and expect the same in return. The next is to be hopeful. Always be hopeful. If you are going around being negative, pessimistic, and saying life's shit and it's all going to be crap and it is going to be shit and it is all going to be crap. But if you're hopeful and you think things will be good, and be very conscious of the fact that I'm not saying optimistic, I'm saying hopeful, because hope is much more powerful than optimism, and it is not I feel like it is a lot less whimsical than optimism. Hope is understanding that there will be shit times, there will be suffering, but at the end of the day, hopefully, we will have an outcome which is not necessarily nice, not necessarily entirely good, but it will be satisfying. Okay, then the last one I have is a growth mindset. And you can see how these all fit together and how a growth mindset is almost necessary for these. So I'm not entirely convinced about the growth mindset one, because it is almost necessary for the others. But nonetheless, I have it here. And then from these axioms, I derived life principles. So for instance, number 1, purposeful suffering builds character. And then I put a quote, true gold does not fear the furnace. Right, so you can see how this has been derived from here. Okay, we have self-respect and authenticity and hopefulness and self-discipline. From there you can easily get to this life principle. And yes, this is not mathematics, right? We can't do a very elegant proof to get to these what in mathematics would be lemmas, but in our case are, guiding principles. But you can think about it for a while and derive them in your own head. Number 2, have the courage to confront people/problems when the problem is yet a sapling, or when it is a baby dragon instead of a massive dragon, as Jordan Peterson likes to put it. Right? And this is self-respect. Number 6, you can only control your actions and thoughts. Focus on the controllables. Don't allow external circumstance or the actions of others to upset you. When something goes wrong, focus on how you can improve and what you did wrong. So I hope you guys have got something from this video. And in the next few days, I want you to just look around and look at the decisions, massive decisions people make, and how little they have thought about them. Just think about how much buying an expensive car on finance changes your life, and how much it defines your life, right? That means you're not going to have money to be able to start your own business if you want to. It means you don't have money to quit your job and go traveling. It means you just have so many more constraints placed on yourself. And this person made that decision based on nothing other than the fact that they, if you break it down to its barest bones, want more status. They just want to be admired by other people or seen to be doing well. And if you ask them why 100 times, they would figure it out, but by themselves they would not figure it out, because they don't ask themselves these questions. Because if you really looked at it, could you sacrifice your potential dreams just for some extra status for a few years? Could you really do that as a logical person? I think not, right? So these people simply aren't thinking. And as much as Andrew Tate gets a lot of shit on the internet, he was definitely onto something about the Matrix, okay? And I think this is an idea to contemplate and something to think about. And I hope this makes you guys think more about the decisions you make in the future and why you are making them. And now please go build that life philosophy. It really would mean a lot to me if just 3 people came up with their own life philosophies and took control of their lives.